Is prep time for a trick even worth it? I would argue yes. It depends on the trick. So, and what kind of thing. So, what are you trying to perform it for? What's the context of the thing? So, for like an example, Shin Lim. Shin Lim was a wonderful, and I first want to compliment him. He is one of the coolest magicians. I don't do his style, but he's one of the coolest magicians for what he had, and considering his, partial arthritis and everything, as I do as well. I can relate to him on the partial arthritis, where he was able to circumvent many of his talents in piano to magic, and then be able to get around it through, and he makes look pretty, like if you could do real magic, you'd probably do it Shin Lim style, just like really just beautiful. And he was able to circumvent many of the trade-offs with using gap work. And I think it's, considering the trade-offs, he made some pretty interesting trade-offs, and I really, really madly respect it for him. He is just a great performer, in my opinion. And he puts a ton of prep time into his work. If you check out his DVDs, some of his DVDs are like 3 hours long for one single trick. And the prep time is like, some of them, I'm being honest, is like an hour. Or 2 hours to even understand it, and an hour to actually perform it. And so there's a lot of prep time for Shin Lim, so like the poster child of trade-offs to good performance. But is it worth it? That's the other part to it. So prep time for a trick is one section, and then is it worth it to another? Well, Shin Lim has done some big stage close-up shows. He is one of the beautiful performers who can do both stage work and close-up work. And parlor. He can basically do the whole gambit, which is cool. I tend to specialize in just close-up work and niche within that so I can create more creative solutions. And Shin Lim has done, gap work to do that, which is cool. But again, he has a lot of prep time. I bet some of his shows, to do the whole thing, set it up, each one may take like an hour, 2 hours. Maybe he has a team resetting his act where he has multiple sets. So he let's say he has 3 shows that night. He may have 3 sets, so each one can do one performance. And then when resetting it may take an hour or 2 hours, but the pay is really good. The audience management is really good. Everything's set up for that context. Then close up, and someone's asking, let's say for more close up context, and someone says, "Show me a trick." You're not allowed all that prep time unless you already have it on you, maybe a wallet for a quick trick or something of nature, and you're prepared for that context. But if you have cards on you, you may have less prep time for that unless, and it just becomes unless, and is it worth it? And that becomes to the eyes of the beholder. For my style, I'm always circumventing prep time with clever, slight utility. For example, and this is why, for me, I don't really necessarily need prep time. Very little, or just because I have different sections to my act, a full 45-minute show. It has my coins, cards, cups and balls, sponge balls, and I just put them away, prep it, and I'm ready in like 5 minutes with very little prep time, because I want to be more interactive with my audience, and because there's less gaffes to prepare for, I can be more involved with the audience, with worrying less. Like, assuming this really is a normal deck of cards. I know this cliche is overused, but it is a normal deck of cards, and I could actually hand this out to Kelly without fear of having to worry about it, having to prep it, having to know which angles or anything to be shown at.
Shuffled.
It can be shuffled, whatever. It's great. As with prep times, there's just, you have to always be considerate of the trade-offs, and the trade-offs are what ultimately make the second decision: is it even worth it? So always be aware of that, and it makes the performance that much better because you put the thought into those things, where if you didn't, maybe the trick, you're setting up like 45 minutes for a trick, and maybe what people say is it's not even that great of a trick, or it's not even a highlight, or it's forgettable, it's not even memorable, and it's your choice whether you want to keep it or not. Is it your favorite trick in the act? Then it should go up and beyond, and still should be worth it to you, because it's your favorite trick. You love to perform it, whether or not an audience enjoys it, to your mind. For me, I just like to be able to go with less where possible, less prep time by circumventing again with slights. So, for example, the cull Spectre can name anything. Let's say we create an impromptu effect. It calls for 3 7s, aces, kings. What would you like, Kelly?
How many do I have to call out?
No, just name any 4 of a kind you like.
4 of a kind, 5s.
The 5s. So then I think the 5s, and I can casually, as talking spectator, use the ruse of casually talking them and showing all the cards openly. I can be able to cull all the cards. So 5 of clubs. Hopefully the camera can see this. I have to tilt it downward. 5 of clubs. And then the second one is the 5 of hearts. Cull that. 5 of spades. Cull that. And then the last one, 5 of diamonds. Cull that. And I avoid the prep time of having to set it up or having to think about setting up on top. And through just talking to them, I avoid the prep time because it was, to my mind, just for this context, not worth it. And while talking to them, I was able to, in performance, get the 5s on top. And for me, it's not worth it because, like having to set up, because I don't like to have that extra thought. I like to just make it improvised. And it really does feel improvised that I don't have to have any thoughts. I just do it, which is really cool. And I want to thank Coach Kimlot for the Roadrunner Cull that allows me to have this application to use it. Check out his DVD. Not sponsored. I just really like the guy because he has some cool stuff. So that is at least my thoughts for now on prep time and if it's even worth it. Some things just think about, and it can apply to different contexts in life, but
you build the improv part into your act, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the prep time, the non-prep time,
yeah,
you found a way to kind of...
There's just the prep time just for the general idea.
Right.
And then everything else is just improvised, almost.
But some would really need the prep time, right? Out of anxiety or fear or...
Yeah, or depending on what they do for their magic act. Like if they have special tricks with special guests, you need the prep time and also the mindset to be able to maybe perform it once to make sure you got it. And so each performer to what they do can matter. You know, maybe if you don't handle it or do a certain angle or do it just the right way, you may flash, the performance may get, you know, revealed or something maybe go wrong. Something may go awry. So it's to each their own. And I'm using myself as an example that, you know, because I'm lazy and I like to be improvised and just really be with the audience. I don't like to have to think about my thoughts or just with the audience. And I let the audience have a little bit more reign to the show, which is nice.
I like that.
I know not all audience members can do that, especially Ricky J, rest his soul, like to have more of a command show, like less talking, more display of the 15th century architecture through showing 4 queens, or in this case an ace of spades, and doing this whole things with and having a lavish display. And I get that. That suits the context. And there had to be a lot of, if you watch it, like seeing some of the segments of the show, you needed a lot of prep time for that. The watermelon, everything. So it's always suiting, again, that context.